welcome to a second Tarantula Hot Topic. The first one was pretty good, so I decided to make another one. This one is going to be on water, sources of water for your teas, and what to do and what not to do when watering your teas. So before we get into that, I wanted to go over some other comments about the last Tarantula Hot Topic, which you can find here. I'll put a link here, and I'll put one down in the description if you missed that one. So I wanted to go over a couple comments that were kind of interesting and that I kind of wanted to elaborate more on and discuss more. So we'll do that before we get into the actual topic for this video. So the first comment that I wanted to discuss comes from George. He says arboreal slings in 16-ounce dilly cups, terrestrial slings in vials and dilly cups, arboreal juvies in acrylics, and fish tanks flipped on the side. So he was saying something about housing adult arboreal tarantulas, which in my last video, I kind of like didn't have a really good answer for that. And he said that he uses glass fish tanks, like the aquariums with the screen lids, flipped on the side. So that way the enclosure is more tall than it is long, and the lid comes off on the side instead of from the top. So, and also I guess that would be good because the humidity stays inside as opposed to coming out the top, whereas it would come out the top in an enclosure with a screen top on the top. So that's a really good point. So I wanted to elaborate on that and say you could possibly do that, but I'm not really sure how that works. So the next comment that I wanted to go over is comes from Haley. She says, my friend ended up getting a rose hair, an adult, hasn't been handled. She keeps a rosy in a fish type aquarium and has it about halfway filled up with substrate. Fish tanks are okay for tarantulas, like the 10 gallons, or maybe like a 5 for a small one. The only thing is that they're really tall. I don't keep any of mine in fish tanks just because for this reason. But if you want to, if you only have one or so, and you want to keep it in a fish tank aquarium kind of thing, you kind of have to accommodate for the height if you're housing a terrestrial one, because they are really tall. So if you have a fish tank and it's like yay tall, you want to fill it at least like up to here. Like up to here with substrate. You want to leave like a couple inches, maybe like 3 or 4 inches up on top, so that if the tea decides to climb, it doesn't fall this far down, because as most of you experienced tea keepers know, if a tarantula falls from a great height, it can get damaged and possibly not make it. So you kind of want to be aware of that and make sure that if you do use a fish tank, you fill the enclosure up like 3/4 of the way. So that was a really good point that I didn't really discuss in my other video. The next one comes from West Coast Arachnids. He says some more stuff about glass compared to plastic. So he says aquariums are horrible for keeping teas because they are heavy. You can't easily create holes in them for air. Most of the time they are way too tall for terrestrials to live in. They also tend to mold around the silicone seams, which is not something that I discussed either. So that's a really deciding factor about if you're going to go with plastic or glass, because the glass aquariums, I don't know if you know this, but they do have the silicone seams around the corners. So if you do use glass, you do have the potential for that to get kind of nasty if you don't clean it very often. So just keep an eye out for that. That's a really good point. The next one comes from Sean. He says, will you go out with me? No. And then Thomas says, spiders and other animals don't care about the looks of their enclosures. I use shoebox and glass. They just don't care. I agree. They do not care. Basically, a lot of you guys mentioned that the type of enclosure that you put your teas in is up to us, and they just don't care. So if you want to put your tea in a tub, go ahead. They don't care. If you want to put your tea in a glass enclosure, go ahead. They don't care. It's basically just for us, and if you want to decorate it, make it look nice, and be able to see the tea through the glass, then you can use a glass aquarium. if you want to save space, if you want to save money, if you have a giant collection like I do, well, mine's not giant, but whatever. So if you have a big collection, getting a glass aquarium for each tea is just not economical. It's not going to be easy, and there's not going to be a lot of enough space, basically. With the plastic enclosures, you can actually stack them, and it makes it a lot easier to save space, really. Okay, so that was all I had for that, and so we'll get right into the actual topic, which is water. I know this isn't one that you guys had requested, but I figured I would do this one next because it is very important. Because there are a lot of ways that you can kind of mess this up, and there are a lot of ways that I see that are kind of like iffy and wrong. I don't want to say wrong, but something that I would never do, and something that people don't recommend that you do. So I just want to go over that, and I'll show you what I do, and then what you probably shouldn't do, but a lot of people do anyway. Excuse me. First things first, my water dish. Now, I use these for all of my adult teas. So what I use is these ceramic water dishes. You can get them at like PetSmart or something. Petco, any kind of pet store carries them. And they come in different sizes and all that stuff, so. I use these, they're really nice because they're not porous, they don't harbor bacteria and all that, and they're fairly easy to clean. The thing that I really wanted to discuss is what's inside. And a lot of you guys say, oh, you really shouldn't use gel and whatever that stuff is in the water dish that you have. It's not gel, it's actually glass marbles. So, yeah, they're marbles. Just little glass marbles. So I use these marbles because when I used to keep cockroaches, they used to get in the water and they used to drown themselves, so that's why I use them. They're not gel. I would never use gel for my teas. It's simply to keep the feeders out of the water dish and to keep them from dying, basically. The one thing that you want to keep in mind is that tarantulas actually drink water, so to give them those little gel pellet things is kind of stupid because there's no need for that, and they kind of get disgusting. My nose is itchy. The thing that you want to keep in mind is that an adult tarantula, 4 to like 8 inches, is not going to drown in a shallow water dish. I keep getting questions about that a lot, like, should I put rocks in my water dish so the tea doesn't drown? And I'm like, no, I just do it because my feeders drown. And they're stupid. An adult tarantula is not going to drown itself. If you give it a water dish that is smaller than its leg span, it's going to be able to get out of it. If it happens to wander into the water for some reason, I don't know why it would. But slings, you don't give them full water dishes like something that I would give an adult, because yeah, it's going to drown in it. So what I do for slings, and not slings, but like smaller, like juveniles, maybe like 2 to up to 4 inches to 3.5 inches, is I give them little bottle caps. And this is just a bottle cap off of a water bottle. And these are good because they are really tiny and they're easy to come by. So, I mean, just pull it off of a water bottle and stick it in there. Fill it with water, and then you're good to go. So I use that for smaller tarantulas. You can also get these little things. They're bead containers that I got from the like Michael's or whatever. And what I like to do is I like to put a single marble in there, and then that way if a feeder gets in there, it doesn't die. You don't want to have standing water in a sling enclosure because they will drown because they're so tiny. So what I do for slings is I take a water bottle and I spritz the side, like not the whole enclosure, but I spritz the side so that there's a little mist on the side of the enclosure, and then it can go and get a drink when it needs to. That's what I do. The things that you probably shouldn't do, and that I see a lot, is that people use sponges and paper towels. They also use the cricket gel stuff, but I'll get into that in a second. So the reason why you don't want to use sponges or paper towels for water is because they harbor bacteria, and that's kind of dangerous to your tarantula, just because nobody wants bacteria in their tarantula enclosures, just like we don't want mites in our enclosures. So don't use them. Just give it a full water dish with actual water in it, because tarantulas do drink water. They have mouth parts to suck up water with, and if they can drink from a water dish, why not give them a water dish? Why would you give them a sponge? But I do see people doing that a lot. And I don't know, I mean, it's not wrong, it's just dirty, and I don't see the point in doing it. Just because they do drink water, and they are capable of drinking water. So, I don't know, this is my opinion. The thing with cricket gel is that is made for crickets. Gel, the cricket food stuff with the moisture and food together, that's made for gut-loading crickets so that you can feed to your animals and they can get all the nutrients from the food. That is not for tarantulas to drink. So for a tarantula, they do get a lot of moisture from their food, but the supplemental moisture that they need is going to be from a water dish, an actual water dish filled with water. Not gel, not a sponge, not a paper towel, nothing like that. That's pretty much it. I want to know what you guys think, what you guys use, what kind of problems you have with anything that you have used, what you use for adults, slings, juveniles. Give me some ideas on what kind of water dishes you use, things like that. So that's pretty much it, and I want to know what you guys think and how you view the topic on water and how to give water to tarantulas. If you guys have any other ways, any different opinions on anything that I've said, let me know in the comments, and I will be in the comments replying to as many as I can. Yeah, so I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you guys in the comments.